So, before I start on this live cast, I just want to say a really big heartfelt thank you to some people who over the last week have, either said or done something that has inspired me or touched me or lifted me up. And these people that I want to say thanks to are Fernando, Jamila, Trace, Scott, Elliot, Kate, Jan, Stefan, Amber, John, Melissa, Derek, Bill, Golden, Tracy, Allison, Adam, Robert, Ron, my dad, my mum, my brother Richie, Buddy, Mark, Joe, Dennis, Darren, thinking of you, bro. So I just wanted to say a really big thank you to all of those guys, because over the last week or so, whether we've connected on a quick conversation or you've just flicked me over a quick message, I really appreciate you guys. I wanted to say thank you. You make a difference in my life. So today, we're going to talk and explore a little bit on Joseph Campbell's work. What is it with these Campbells? Tom Campbell, Joseph Campbell, great people. And Joseph Campbell, of course, did great work in his lifetime with myths and symbols. And many, many years ago, I came across a gentleman who introduced me to Joseph Campbell's work. And that gentleman's name is Charles Bentley from England, from London, I believe. And Mr. Bentley, Charles, if you see this video at any point, thank you very much for being a big part of my journey. And so reading up and studying Joseph Campbell's work for so many years, it's like all of humanity, all of us live that one story. It's like we're all living the same story, walking, journeying on our path. And it's the same metaphors, it's the same story that's going on with all of us, just in our own individual way. Like the larger consciousness system makes us individuals so it can experience things firsthand from different points of view, different experiences, different cultures, different places, and everything that comes with that makes the whole thing make sense. And this story, this journey of the warrior, of the hero, the hero's journey, is an amazing metaphorical tool, an amazing personal growth tool that I wanted to share with you guys. And today's live cast is not so much an intellectual exploration of this work. It's more a practical, emotional journey into this path of the hero and what happens on the way and what it means to us. So it all starts with the ordinary world. And in the ordinary world, we could say that this is like the safe zone. And we live our lives in the safe zone. And whenever things get tough, we kind of retreat back into the safe zone. Some of us never ever get out of it. Some of us stay in the safe zone all of our lives. And when we come across these people, we can usually tell, they're maybe 40s, 50s, early 60s, and their outlook in the world is quite immature. That's because they've been in the safe zone all their life. They've never stepped out of it. And the safe zone feels really comfortable. but it's stagnant. And, it's really our enemy. It's our true enemy. So, the hero's journey, our journey, for whoever's watching this now and whoever will watch it in the coming days and weeks, the hero's journey starts in the ordinary world. It starts in the safe zone. And then what happens is we get a call. We get a call to adventure. We get a call to step out of the safe zone. And that call can happen so many different ways, The first call is usually something quite nice. And of course, there's resistance. We don't want to answer the call straight away because we're in the safe zone. Everything's safe. Everything's secure. Everything is easy. And we resist the call because of that. When the call comes, we know what it means. And we get afraid. We resist the call because the call to adventure, to leave our safe zone, starts to bring up things that we've got inside us. It starts to bring up the fears that we have, the anxieties that we're not good enough, that we're not going to be able to do it, that only other people can do this thing. Who the hell are we thinking that we can be special? Like all of these emotions, all of these responses. Hello, uncle, love you. Come up. And so we stay in the safe zone. We stay there. Because we've ignored the call, what's going to happen is it's going to come again. Next time the call isn't so nice. And we may ignore it again. And this may happen over and over and over again. So many times. Till it gets to the point where our partner walks out on us. Or we find ourselves on the street, or we find that our house is being repossessed, or our car is being repossessed. Because we weren't in the moment. We weren't aware. We weren't attentive to the things that are important. And that's what the call to adventure is all about. See, because by staying in the safe zone, what happens is we become like programs. We start to lose our humanity, our emotional energy, our creative prowess, our power, our godly power as humans diminishes every day by a little bit when we stay in the safe zone. And what happens is we forget how incredible we can be. And it's like it's like we shut off from it. And we just take on. We accept the ordinary world, and we're too afraid to step out of it. So the call to adventure will keep coming. The phone will keep ringing. It'll keep getting louder and louder until we have no choice but to listen. Until we have no choice but to begin our hero's journey. And for me, personally, that call came, I think it was around about 3 years ago now, like 2014, maybe 2014, 2015. And that call happened because I was not attentive to my family, to my wife. I lost myself too much in business, too much in my own ego, all of that stuff. And then one day, out of the blue, I was staring in the face of the impossible. Like where I might even split my family up, I might lose my family. And I remember in that moment how shocking it was, like my world just collapsed. But I knew what was happening. I was fully aware. I knew what to do. I knew I had to answer the call. I knew what caused it. It was me. I was ignoring the call. I was staying in the safe zone, and I lost myself in my own ego. I lost touch with what was important. So I answered the call. I was forced. The larger consciousness system kept calling me to adventure, and I kept ignoring it, and then bang, it got me where it knew I would answer the call. Got me right here. And of course, I answered immediately. And that started my hero's journey. And, you know, the call to adventure is scary because we're leaving that safe zone. We're going into the unknown. The safe zone is known. We know everything in there. The call to adventure we resist it so much because we know here it means stepping into the unknown. All the things that we know, the things we've, the material objects that we get so much pleasure identifying with, all of that stuff, we could lose all of that. We could lose all of that safety. And that's why we resist. Because our world has shrunk, it's so small. We've forgotten the bigger picture. So we resist. And we're full of fear. So as we continue to, refuse that call, being reluctant heroes, because we're all reluctant heroes. The hero doesn't start their journey as the final product that we're going to get to. The hero has to go through so much just to get back and complete that circle. So the fractal process can continue, because in the hero completing that circle, coming back and being that example, others are inspired by that example, by that story. And then they take their first step out of their safe zone. And that's the fractal process carrying on and on and on and on. There really is just one story with humanity. I remember hearing Guy Ritchie being interviewed by Joe Rogan. And Guy Ritchie was saying, yes, there really is only one story. Every movie is run from that one story. Every life lived on earth is run from that one story. Joseph Campbell hit the nail on the head. And so, we're in our safe zone. The call to adventure is coming. We're refusing the call. We're reluctant. We want to stay in the safety of what we know. We don't want to step out there. We're afraid. And then what happens is we meet with a mentor. This figure, this symbol, can be a person, can be a book we read, can be something that we come into contact with. Meeting the mentor shows us, it gives us a missing piece to the puzzle that allows us to see why we're holding back, what it is that we're so afraid of. It gives us that missing piece to allow us to make the decision to take that first step outside of our safety zone. And that's the turning point. That is the turning point in our hero story, where we're ready to make the decision, where we haven't made the decision yet, but we're ready to make the decision. We're ready to do this, and we're ready to overcome our fears. We make the decision that we're going to overcome our fears. We make the decision that, okay, we're going to start our journey. and we're going to step. And that mentor will come just at the right time for us and will appear from the right place with the right message at that moment to help us make the decision, to make a love-based decision instead of fear-based decision, and start our hero's journey. So we then get to the part where we cross the threshold. Crossing the threshold is the boundary of the safe zone. Crossing the threshold is where we move, where we take that step and our foot actually plants into the unknown for the first time. So we've got one foot out of the safe zone and we've stepped into the unknown, but the other foot is still there. So we've crossed the boundary into the unknown, whether we do that willingly or whether we're pushed by the mentor when we meet the mentor, or whether we're pushed by the larger consciousness system by making the call straight into our hearts. It knows, because it is us. You know, whatever you want to call the larger consciousness system, whatever that means to you, you know, on your journey. So that crossing of the threshold is where the awakening begins. That crossing of the threshold is where the transition begins from fear to love, from resistance to acceptance, from being cowardly to being courageous. This is where it all begins. It's a scary moment. As we make that decision to cross that line, that boundary, we begin to flex our creative power. Things start to happen that we're like, how did I do that? I didn't know I had that in me. And that feeling, that shock of like, I didn't think I was that brave, or I didn't think I could do that. And the sudden realization that, yes, I am. That creative power only happens when we step a foot out of the safety zone. It doesn't exist in the safety zone. And that flexing of our humanity, of our heart, of our power as we step out into the unknown, that's the awakening. It's like a bucket of cold water thrown over us that shocks us into our power as we move into the unknown. And then as we step into the unknown, we are faced with tests. We are introduced to new allies, new friends. We start to attract certain people into our lives, and we start forming alliances, start having friendships, and enemies. We come across enemies as well, because we're in the unknown now. It's all new. And these tests, these challenges, these obstacles that we face, this is our growth. When we're talking personal growth, there's no personal growth in the safety zone. The personal growth is out in that unknown territory, on our hero's journey. We're being tested in our failures, in our victories. Out there in the unknown, this is where we grow. Every time we fail, we learn. With each step that we succeed a little or fail a little, with each step that we make a decision based on fear or make a decision based on love, whether we lift up the system a little bit or drop it a little bit due to our own choices, because we're all connected. So as we're all making decisions on our hero's journey, as we're all succeeding, making love-based decisions, or failing, making fear-based decisions, we're lifting the whole system or dropping the whole system. And everyone's doing that all at once on all their journeys, which is projecting this whole reality moment to moment. So by stepping out into that unknown and dealing with those challenges, facing those fears, making new friends that inspire us, loving our enemies, making that anguished choice to love an enemy instead of come from a fear-based position and butt heads with them. You know, this is what the journey is all about when we head into that unknown territory. You know, the failures and the victories help to prepare us for what's to come, where we can make a real difference, where we can turn our entire lives around in a way that we simply could not ever imagine while we're in the safety of that safe zone. We can't imagine. We just cannot see ourselves like that. That's not us. That's not me. I can't do that. But when we go into the unknown, when we're out there, when we're stepping, when we're dealing with the fears and we're seeing it, we're growing without us even knowing. And we're dealing with things, we're doing things, we're becoming things that we're left awestruck as we see ourselves transform into the hero. And that's all happening out there in the unknown. So of course, when we step out there into the unknown, the time comes that we approach the inmost cave. In our journey, we get to this cave. And boy, oh boy, we know what's in there. We know exactly what's in there. It's led us. Our journey has led us to that cave. And in there is the dragon. The symbol of the dragon, that mythical, magical creature. So beautiful, so wise, so terrifying. Just looking at it, we're paralyzed with fear, and that dragon is in that cave, and we have to go in there. Because that's what the hero's journey is all about. There comes a time where we either have to go in that cave, face what's in there and defeat it, or die. That's what birth and death is all about, and we'll get to resurrection. So, as we approach that inmost cave, we are going through a process like when we very first stepped out of our own safe zone for the first time, just magnified by 1,000. We've grown so much since that person we left behind in the safe zone. We're not the same person. So the stakes are higher. When we feel fear, the fear is like, whoa, that's the dragon in there. This isn't the neighbor anymore. That's the dragon. I got to go in there and face that? Really? You're telling me I have to turn up in front of all my peers with no pants on and realize, oh my God, I forgot to wear my pants and put up with all of them laughing publicly? Are you kidding me? I got to go in there and face that? Whatever it is, whatever that symbol is to you, it's in there and you know what's coming. And as we prepare to make that decision to go into that cave and face that dragon, the inner hustle, the inner work that Tom Campbell goes through so much with us, that Joseph Campbell, Jordan Peterson, Gary Vee, all the great teachers in this time and in times past, all our experience, our personal direct experience that we've gained, learning, failing, being laughed at, running away, on that journey up to that point to where we get to that cave, all of that is with us, and we're now ready, and we walk into that cave. We walk into the darkness knowing the dragon's going to be in there. Are you listening? You guys, you know what I'm talking about. You're at that cave and you're full of doubt. You're like, I'm going to die when I walk in there. This thing is too big for me. One bite, I'm dead. Who do I think I am standing at this cave? Everyone's right. I'm just kidding myself. And we're dealing with this. You and me, we're dealing with this every day. So we step into the cave. We step into the cave and we start to walk into the cave with overwhelming nerves, with overwhelming doubts. Every fucking fear that we have ever felt is like beating in our hearts that hard that we can feel our veins pumping in our temples. You know the feeling. Our foot is shaking with fear as we step, but we're still stepping. We're still stepping. This is where courage comes in. This is where love, the power of love, comes in. This is where the hero starts to be born and take the lead as it leads us into this cave. And we start having aha moments. We start having real realizations as we push through that primordial fear, that terror, and face the Serpent King. Face our deepest, darkest fears that have held us back all of our lives. And we come face to face with them as we, push hard to do what we want to do, to live our path, to be ourselves unashamedly. And as the dragon sees us and rears its head and its wings unfurl, and we see the majesty and the sheer terror of this thing, and our knees start to buckle, but we stand our ground. We begin going through the ordeal of, what can only be described as a life and death struggle. That ordeal can be the loss of a loved one. That ordeal can be the sheer agony of repairing relationships, lifelong relationships that we've fucked up through our own ego, because we were only thinking of ourselves at critical times, and we fucking let down people. And and as we go through that ordeal, we learn who we are. We see the best version of ourselves face the dragon, and we engage with it, and we go through the ordeal not defensive anymore. Something happens, and we know that we can do this. We know that we're not alone. And we start to get the upper hand, and we start to heal these relationships. The dragon starts to fall back because it's like, whoa. It sees our heart. And when fear sees love, it shrinks back every time. Every time. So the ordeal purifies us. The ordeal, it shifts us from a fear base to a love base. It empowers us. It gives us wisdom. We are personally, directly experiencing this whole ordeal, the lead up to it, the dragon coming up, engaging it, fighting the dragon, feeling that we can win, seeing the dragon falling back, feeling our hearts take the lead. Becoming an empath, empathizing with everyone, loving everyone for where they are in their journey. The dragon just, it falls back. I mean, our sword spears it. And we step up onto the dragon, and victory is ours with love. And we fucking grow up. We grow up. And once the dragon is slayed, and we're growing up, we see that there's a freaking treasure behind the dragon. We see there's a huge treasure that we weren't aware of before. And that treasure is so exotic. It's so absolutely breathtaking. You know, that treasure is a metaphor for the love in our hearts. That's the reward of the relationships that we have healed, because we stepped, because we let ourselves from the heart, because we had the courage to be heroes and fix the shit, the mess that we left back there in the safe zone. We faced it in the cave. And we grew up. And as that treasure starts to beam through us, the transition continues. We become wise beyond our years, because we're coming from the heart, and people back in the safe zone see us, and it's like, how can someone be that wise, or how can someone be that courageous? And they don't understand that they are seeing the potential of themselves when they step out of the safety zone. That's why they're so inspired. That's why tears fall down our face when we come into contact with this story, because it's us. It's all of us. And we know that potential is there for us. So as the reward becomes apparent to us, and we seize the sword out of the dragon and we're holding it, we emerge a different being. Something changes as we rebalance the yin and yang inside us. Love. It's all about love. That transformation, that shift, that awakening, our eyes are open. We are awake. We become the example. That's the treasure. And then this leads us to the point where we walk back out of the cave, and we're looking at the road back. We got to go back now. We can't just stay in the cave forever. That's not what a hero does. Hero's got to go back. And now we're looking at the reverse of the decision that we made when we had to step out of the safe zone, out into the unknown. Now we're in the unknown, and we have to head back to the safe zone. And we may not want to. I mean, literally, we've just slayed the dragon. We think we've overcome our ego and that humility rules, but we fall into a trap so easily where our ego comes up again. We want to stay out. We want to look for the next dragon. We want to shout out to the whole world how to kill dragons. I'm smiling at myself here. So we make the decision to go back. We make the love-based choice because we realize there's a higher calling. There's a higher purpose for us than just going around slaying dragons for our own enjoyment, because we can, to show everyone how wise we are. There's a bigger picture. We need to go bring balance back to the system. Give ourselves to that, so we become an instrument for the system to do its thing. So we're hesitant. We resist the call to go back to the normal world in the same way that we resisted the call to head out into the unknown. And this is where, the resurrection occurs. The final battle within us as warriors, as we journey back down into the valley from the top of the mountain where the cave was, where the dragon is. And now we bring that back with us. So we're resurrected into a new being because of what we've done, because of our journey. We've become something else. There's a death of who we were. That being, those choices back in the safe zone before we stepped out, that being is dead. They've died. And there's a resurrection of a new being, a rebirth. And that's who's coming back. That's who's journeying back to the safe zone. And we finally get back to the safe zone. We step a foot back in there, and we return with the elixir. We return with the magic, the lightning in a bottle. And we return back to the very place where we started. So the circle is complete. And in us completing that circle, we allow for the process fractal to continue, for the story of our species, of humanity, to continue. And in that moment, we allow for the next person to answer their call and not ignore it. Why? Because they've seen us return with the elixir. They've seen who we were when we left and who we've become. And just the very presence of us coming back, we are the example that can inspire others to answer their call. And that's the human story of fear versus love, bringing balance back to the larger consciousness system. And wow, this has been a great live cast. I want to say that love has changed my life, thanks to people like Tom Campbell, thanks to people like Keith, Donna, so many of you within the MBT community that I touch base with every single day. My wife, my kids, my best friends. I want to thank all of you for helping me take steps on my journey. And, I'm here for you guys as well, in whatever little capacity that I can be here with. So I love you guys. Hope you have a great day. Looking forward to the next live cast. Hope you go out and kick butt today. Well, Trace Panilla has just walked in.
Hello.
Hey, baby. All right, so that means it's time to go, because I'm going to go and give this lady a huge hug now.
Right, yo.
All right, guys, have a good one. Bye-bye.